Think Outside the Lines is a space for anyone ready to stop checking boxes, to step off autopilot, and create the life you actually want, with clarity, intention, and alignment. Whether you're questioning the default path, rebuilding from scratch, or just looking to feel a little more like yourself. My guest today has spent more than 20 years as a social worker, a therapist, and a counselor, the person everyone else leaned on. She has shown up for thousands of people, many of whom told her she saved their lives. What almost no one could see was that, for years, while she was saving everyone else, she was quietly dying inside. Today, she is a writer, a speaker, and she is here to talk about what happens when the helper finally has to heal herself. Join me as we think outside the lines with Angela Harvey. All right, Angela, you have spent more than 20 years as a social worker and a therapist.
Yeah.
And in the midst of all that, you said you were dying inside. So tell me a little bit about your journey that's led to this moment.
Oh my goodness. Where do I start?
A big question.
Right. Big question, but great question. I discovered in these last 4 or 5 years that I have absolutely been obedient to my assignment in resuscitating spirits and resurrecting relationships and reviving friendships and all those types of things, only to discover that it felt like I was giving, not knowing for a long time that I was dying inside. There were things that I was dispensing, medicine I was dispensing from my mouth that I wasn't inhaling myself first, discovering that I was codependent, discovered that every major trek that I took was because of someone else. That was mind-boggling to me. Here I thought I was this leader, and every place that I had gone and grown was me following somebody else. And that was a aha. So when you discover you're dead inside, but yet you're walking and talking and living and people see you, you're doing okay. If you got $2 in the bank and you have a place to live, people think you're fine. So I almost had to convince people that I was not fine, that I was depressed, that I was suicidal, that I didn't want to be here. And it was me having to convince people because they saw what I was doing and what I was giving and how I was showing up for other people. They did not believe it like I didn't believe it. So much of it I had to tend to myself. And that piece it made me reflective of those people who have inside injuries. If I had a broken arm and crutches and my eye was black, somebody would try to help me across the street or they'd ask me if I was okay. When you're walking around all toe up from the floor up in the inside, people don't ask those questions. And those are things I had to find out. I have a little note here. Nobody else sees this, but it says you are not being overlooked, abandoned, left, forgotten, or rejected. You are being set apart, hidden, preserved, prepared, positioned, and protected.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
It is a lot, but I needed to know
it.
every single one of those things because at any given point, I felt all of the other things. And I needed to know that when I have me, I have someone. I wasn't including myself into somebody that could save me. I was looking for somebody else to come save me. And in many cases, me and my higher power is all I had.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and we're gonna dive into all of it.
Let's go.
So I guess as a highly sensitive person myself, I've always wondered about the people who help others as part of their profession, right? Because that's a very small group of folks and a very select group of people that are capable, right? But I've always wondered who is helping them.
Right.
And I guess my question to you in that is, what is it like to see so clearly for others while being unable to clearly see yourself? Talk a bit about that.
Let's talk about that. So I mentioned that I was codependent. So one of the things I learned in being codependent is that I'm an extreme people pleaser. I'm the person that would have at one time given you the coat off my back and sat someplace freezing and then very resentful that I was freezing and somebody else didn't offer me their coat.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it was so mind-boggling to me to know that's what was happening, but it was. And when I discovered one thing, I discovered all these other little things where I was literally begging people, please don't take advantage, as if I didn't have control to go, no. Literally, I'm just now learning at 59 to say no, and that I don't even have to have a reason. Because in my mind, if there wasn't a valid reason in my head to tell you no, yes was it. And it didn't make a difference if I had to bend myself in a pretzel or not. I'm also very clear that only a strong friend, you see the little sayings, check in on your strong friends. I'm very clear that only a strong friend can really and truly support a strong friend that's struggling, because I live in the ocean where it's deep. people that can't swim, people that are afraid of water, people that don't, those people are not coming for me. And for that reason, I had to either learn to swim to the shallow end and ask for help, or had to be okay with being able to float until I can grow things on my own. And so it absolutely is something that nobody warns you about, that you could dispense all of this greatness and all these people to go, oh my goodness, you literally, there's people that say, you saved my life. And I thought, how ironic that I was sitting someplace barely breathing and not putting my own mask on first, but teaching other people for sure, put your mask on first. But I didn't know it because people pleasing was what gave me life. So it wasn't until I was out of a relationship and not having a code for my codependency that I learned that, oh my goodness, I can't breathe on my own. Oh my goodness, if I'm not tap dancing for somebody else, I don't know how to dance. Oh my goodness, if I'm not doing, I only knew love through doing things for other people. I didn't even know how to ask for love because me loving was me loving somebody else. It was and still is wild.
Yeah, it's, it's interesting. I'm really struck by your statement about swimming in the deep end and how only strong people can really help other strong people. And I think about times in my life where I was struggling the most and the people around me were just ill-equipped to help me. And I think about my life now, and I think I'm really fortunate to have some really great long-term friendships in my life, but those are like the stronger people that were also able to survive the craziness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating, I never really looked at it that way before.
Yeah. It wasn't until I realized that most of the people that I was calling friends were people that had initially held me in their world as a service provider. So they saw a physician, they saw a facilitator, they saw a therapist, they saw a counselor. And in my head, once you take in all this information from people, you got to be close to them. In my head, that's what I was thinking. Only to find out that most people cannot swim to the middle of the ocean to help somebody who is deep thinking, deep feeling. I didn't know that shame can be transferred. I shed shame very easily, and other people evidently can pick it up. All those things that you don't know and know. And I was looking for people like, nobody's going to come get me. And the other thing that people told me was, Angie, we were really very clear that you could swim. We know that because you saved us.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between doing this and then turning over and being able to float until you could swim again was really powerful to learn, and I didn't know how and had to learn how.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You said that you remember the exact day and time and year that you realized something did have to change. Can you talk a little bit about what was happening in that moment and what finally made you see it?
It was at the end of my last relationship in 2019. And it was the first time in my adult life that I had been single. It just so happened that 2 years after that, I lost my sister. And when I lost my sister, she transitioned. I also had a falling out in my family where I disconnected from my mother, pretty much my entire family, 2 of my best friends, my most long-term friends, because I needed help. And I had my hand out, and nobody, and I don't exaggerate when I say nobody that I was reaching out to, that I had reached out, that I had helped, was reaching back. And I disconnected from those people. So I had to love people from a distance. And so when I moved away, I moved to Texas so I could get away from everything. I didn't have to be anybody's anything. And it was the first time I didn't have anybody to do anything for. I didn't have anybody to do anything with. I wasn't responsible for anybody else's emotions. And I was sick. This is horrible. It felt like I was really and truly sick. And then the pandemic happened. So I just moved to Texas. And the pandemic happened, so I'm sheltering in place alone and watching nobody. I'm the only person in my family that's sheltering alone. Nobody's calling my phone. I'm having to go out and walk. I lost 45 pounds in 3 months. In my head, I know that it couldn't have been gradual. It had to be that way for me because I'm a hard head and I think I can handle anything. So the universe had to come in and sweep everything from under me for me to be able to identify my codependency and being able to identify the fact that so many of the things that I needed to have done, I was looking for other people to do, and not do physically, but allowing me to do for them is what was doing for me, which is so very crazy to me when I say it out loud. Loving other people is the way I feel loved. So then what happens when you don't have other people to love, then you don't feel loved, then what? What? Yeah, and I'm a therapist. That's the biggest piece of it. And in the scheme of things, you'd be different if I majored in economics and just didn't know. But I have books. I've done this thing. I've counseled people, thousands of people. I'm a facilitator. And I wasn't clear that I was so far gone. So far gone.
I'm so fascinated by how like things tend to all happen at once.
Well,
And because you mentioned like your relationship ended, right? And then you moved and then the pandemic, and that caused you to see, oh, these other people in my life weren't really like showing up the way that I needed them to. And I had a very similar experience after a relationship ended, which is interesting. I feel like that's a time in your life, especially if it's a significant relationship, that you learn so much,
yes.
right? About codependency, or about just how to survive in the world by yourself.
Yes.
And in my case, the universe actually sent me an even more toxic person next. I'm happily married now, thank you, or thank God. But the in-between was very challenging in that respect. And I really identify with a lot of your story there, because I was like at a rock bottom almost, but then I was like, the universe sent me somebody that like pushed me down even further. And that's when I learned the most.
Yes.
That's when I feel like it's like you either rise to the occasion, you either find that strength, or it's like,
Oh, truth. I'm a firm believer that some of our greatest and most valuable lessons are learned in the valley, which is the
Yeah.
thinking now. I do not run from the valley. I stay in the valley until I extract the lesson, because the lesson is needed for the mountaintop. And so I might say, oh, I want to get past this. Okay, what lesson am I supposed to get? Literally. And I go to myself, what do you feel and what do you fear? Because those two things can absolutely know, oh, the lesson is over here. Oh, this is where the lesson is. Where most people hurry up and get me out of here. I go, hey, to the valley, because I know I'm growing there to get something that I'm absolutely going to need.
Yeah, I will have to talk later about your tips for that, because I don't necessarily love to run toward fear. I struggle with the idea that's where the growth is, right? So the more you can run toward the fear, the more you can run through the fear, as it were, right?
I didn't to the valley, not to the fear, because
yeah, but there's fear in the valley. I felt like that's where you were going.
Oh, very good for that, but I wish I didn't know that. I literally would have still told you that I was only afraid of two things, my mother and bugs, until I started going through my program, only to learn that I had at least 79, 80 fears that I had no idea about. I didn't even know that were fears. And none of them were things. These were all emotions. Fear, being unloved, unworthy, fear of, oh my goodness, it was just so many. Yeah, but I'm hearing what you said, and thank you for saying that out loud. The fear being in the valley, I'm not even sure if I'm ready for that. That might be a whole nother podcast for me.
That's part two. We'll talk about that another time.
Exactly.
I asked the question about the specificity of the time and place where you feel like you remember like what you're going through, because I think for a lot of people, it's not a huge revelation, right? Sometimes it's more of a quiet knowing. And I talk about this all the time on the show. Like Oprah Winfrey was like a second parent to me growing up, and she always called it a whisper. And so I guess and then it starts to get bigger, and then it's a scream, and then you can't ignore the scream. Right. What might you say to someone who's listening, who's feeling that quiet knowing or that whisper?
I would call it a pause.
Oh.
A pause, because it's when you used to flow in something and all of a sudden you find yourself pausing in your thoughts, pausing in your dispensing of emotions, pausing in your physical. And that pause is making you think. Second guess, you can call it your gut. I believe your gut is of your higher power. It absolutely tells you what needs to do. And most of us will grow past that, move past that quickly if it's not familiar to us, or it's going to be uncomfortable, or if it's going to violate somebody else. And when I say violate, meaning infringe on somebody else, we will not hear it. Because most of us, you're right, most of us hear it. It's like I'm thinking about a hearing exam where you hear ding and it gets louder. I'm thinking that's what happened. And probably if I had to pinpoint that, it would have been before that relationship that I ended up leaving, which was 5 years earlier, that I was hearing that. And when you hear me say that I had not been alone as an adult, that should have been a hurry up, sit down and shut up type of moment. And it was not. I know now I was absolutely seeking the next quickly, so that I'm not, but it's been transformational in a very positive way. But man, growing up is not for the faint of heart. This ain't easy.
Amen to that. I find it interesting that you use the word like should have, known, right? Or should have done. And I ask that because to what extent do you actually, especially as someone that's done social work and therapy, like to what extent do you actually believe in should have versus this was just my path that I was meant to unfold, that was meant to unfold as it did?
Because I don't want to believe that I was supposed to experience all of the hurt and grief and pain. My
Yeah.
goodness. But I do believe, I've always tell people that my assignment has been on the job training. Like my universe didn't allow me to get it from a book. I couldn't get it from a client. I had to live it myself. I had to do all my internships myself before I could go out there and tell other people how it's done. But it works that way. And I know it works that way for a reason. When I say should, in my head, I want to stick to that simply because I should have. In my head, I want to, going forward, I want to know what, I want to chew on what I dispense before I dispense it. Because if I was listening to me, a lot of things that I had to go through, I would have known. But I was dispensing this thing going forward and not ever inhaling it myself. And most of us would do that. You could ask me something. I tell people all the time when I'm in workshops, if you hold your hand up and put your hand in front of your face, if anything is there, you can't see it because it's that close to you. But if you turn it around, anybody that's over here can absolutely assist in that. There was no one, because I was a teacher, no one thought that they needed to show me anything, so they didn't. And then I was constantly doing that for other people. Yeah.
Yeah. I ask that because that's something that I struggle with, right? The idea of, I feel sometimes I should be doing that or I should be over there.
Right.
I think so that word triggered me in that sense because on the other side of that coin, I find that the moments in my life when I've been most at peace is when I feel that surrender, where all the shoulds fall away. And it's, oh, that sucks, but
the flag right here, because I have to do it daily. And I completely understand what you're saying. And I too am a believer that everything happens for a reason. I just don't want to believe that was supposed to be there that long.
Yeah.
Who wants to take responsibility, go, Angie, you heard that. You heard it. And you was like, let's just wait till it gets louder. It's not disturbing. It's not that uncomfortable. And most of us don't move and grow until we're all the way, like you said, rock bottom, had a little bit more to go that you didn't know.
Yeah.
But as soon as you got there, okay, then the only place to grow from here is up. And I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah. And I find that you mentioned you have a birthday coming up. So before we start recording, happy early birthday.
Okay.
I find that with age comes wisdom. And that's obviously a cliche, right? Like, of course that's true. Not true for everybody, but I think for those of us that are on this path of some sort of evolution, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, I find it really interesting. And so I'm curious to get, like, where are you at now with all of that? Because I feel like you have a beautiful presence about you. You feel like you've really come into your own. Where are you at with the shoulds versus the, like, because I sensed a little bit of like frustration with yourself for not getting it sooner or not, right? So where are you with that now?
Absolutely. I'm learning to take responsibility for myself. So when I was in other places, I was wanting my partner, wanting my parents, wanting my siblings, wanting my friends, wanting my coworkers. I wanted somebody else to go, oh, Angie, you don't forget to tend to this, because I was doing it for everybody else. Let somebody. And now I'm very much aware that I can do that, and I make myself responsible. You mentioned with age comes wisdom. Oh my goodness, I wish that was the truth, because one, I would love to be out of work and not have patients and not have clients and things of that nature. But I'm going to say with lived experience that you're able to grow from, that you're able to be transformed from, that you're able to be healed from, comes wisdom, because many people get older and don't grow anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
That's very fair. I see anything that isn't growing is dead, and I see dead people walking all the time. So I'm very fortunate that the should for me, me wanting to hold on to it, is that I feel like, okay, Angie, I have a coloring book where I had all of my famous sayings, and one of those is, I gave my ex all the answers to the question and he still failed the test. That's what I felt like. I had all the answers. I had the book. I was preaching to other people. How dare me not read the book for myself? I was only reading it to dispense it. I wasn't reading it to inhale it. And so I absolutely have come to, and only because of this conversation will I now consider, okay, Angie, those shoulds, and most of those shoulds that I put on myself are things that I didn't do for me, that I was looking for other people. I would have wanted, like I do now, not to look for. It has done a lot for me to dismantle my expectations. These last 3 holidays, including my birthday, I am intentional about having 0 expectations. I celebrate the entire month of March, and I do that if nobody rings my phone, if nobody knocks at the door, nobody delivers anything, there's no mail. I am still celebrating me unapologetically and no expectations. It took me 16 years to get there, though.
Yeah. Hey, at least you got there. That's how I look at it, right? Like
at least I got here. You right about that.
Yeah. It's so funny. Some of the things you said, like about having the answer key, like giving your partner the answer key or whatever, or like the book. That's how I feel about the current political landscape. I feel like we had the book, right? It was like literally like full of information,
Yes.
and people are just like, no, I don't need that. We'll figure it out. But I digress. The other thing you said that was interesting to me was a personal responsibility aspect, because I find, especially lately, and maybe this is some of the wisdom that comes with getting older, I find myself drawn to other people who are interested in personal responsibility. And this conversation is actually like, I think we're vibing here because I'm taking some stuff from you too here. I don't know that I was as aware of that before this conversation, before that epiphany, as it were. And I think there's something really interesting there. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning where the guy that's the host, he runs some companies, and he says he has this like screening that he does for all of his prospective candidates.
Right.
And one of the questions it's like a culture fit test that you have to pass before you even make it to the interview rounds. And he said the most important question on there is, if the project falls apart or something doesn't work out, there's a failure somewhere in the system, to what extent do you take personal responsibility for that versus blaming other people, blaming the requirements, the team around you, your manager, et cetera, who else? And he said basically, if there's no personal responsibility, if the percentage of that is the lowest, you're automatically out.
Absolutely.
And I was like, in that moment, I was like, oh, that's actually a good like metaphor for life. That's how I want to like screen people in my life too. You know what I mean?
Isn't that it? When I wrote this book, when I wrote a book, it was just poetry at first, but I did not want it to be a book because I didn't consider myself a poet. But the subtitle is 7 Intentions for Healing, Growth, and Transformation. So the book is set up in a space where the transformation came at the end. And what I recognized at the end is that it wasn't until I took responsibility, because in the beginning, I'm like, and they did this, and they did this. And then in the middle, and I can't believe they did this. And at the end, it's, oh, but guess what? They never promised me anything. Oh, but guess what? You saw it in the beginning and didn't go. Oh, but guess what? Rejection made you try harder, so you stayed. And it wasn't until I took responsibility that the transformation happened. Transformation does not happen with growth until you take responsibility, because guess what? I'm the only one that can save Angie. I'm the only one that can keep me from growing someplace that I don't want to go. Nobody twisted my arm. And that's some stuff to say. Be like, oh, and they did this, and they're like, what did you leave? No, what? I mean, you leave? I don't know. And I know that now as a codependent, rejection does make me try harder. You want me to try harder? Reject me. I'm going to come back with it. Oh, let me see what I can do tomorrow. And that is something, so I'm glad that you brought that up, because literally, as I looked through this book to be able to write the self-help piece of it, because it's a poetry self-help book, I recognized that my poetry in the end was all about me taking responsibility for this hurt and this pain, and then having to take responsibility for the healing. Because I tell people all the time, nobody coming for you.
Yeah. And I think too, like you alluded to expectations. And so I think for those that are coming, because we need people in our lives. It's the human condition is beautiful and relationships are beautiful. But I found in my own life too, like expectations are so critical, and setting them in both directions, right? So what are your expectations of me? And here's mine of you.
Right.
In any relationship, right? That's leadership in an employment setting. That's a romantic relationship. That's friendships. It's all kinds of things. And so lately I've been really into the idea of like, how do we talk about expectations? Because I think that's also where like a lot of the tension in relationships lie, is missed expectations, but often unknowingly.
Right. And also being very clear that,
Yeah.
because you hear people all the time say, oh, expectations will kill you. You shouldn't have expectations. There are healthy expectations that every healthy
Yes.
relationship should have. People that say you shouldn't have expectations are people that don't want you to expect anything of them.
I would add to that people who you shouldn't have expectations that you haven't communicated.
There you go. Oh, I like that better too.
Because I agree that so many of us are wandering around like throwing our expectations at everybody, but we haven't communicated what those are. So when you fail to meet them, it's going back to the personal responsibility piece. I would argue it's your fault, right? If I have failed to communicate to you what it is that I need or expect from you, then I can blame you for that. But to what extent?
You'll be able to take it to court, but for sure. And I think that as you say that out loud, and thank you very much, I'm taking notes now. I'm learning that not just expressing the expectations, but then you have to be clear that it's something that they want, can, and are willing to do. Because
yes,
that's a whole nother piece of it. Yeah.
But that's also the beauty of the tension in relationship, right? Because sometimes, like I know with my partner, like I believe I'm in a very loving partnership with someone, but there's conflict that arises because we're both human beings. Absolutely. And so part of that dialogue often looks like, I feel like I'm not rising to my own occasion, right? I'm not able to meet my own expectation, or here's how you're not meeting my expectations or whatever it is, right? And then the conversation that lives in that space is how you either move forward or don't continue forward. And I feel like as someone that, does coaching, but I also go to therapy, I feel that conversation is not one that we have enough in our relationships.
Absolutely. And mainly because what you just said, where it's usually triggered by conflict. So it all depends on how people define what that conflict looks like. And I'm like you in that I just experienced this yesterday with somebody I just met maybe 3 or 4 months ago. We've had some very detailed and deep conversations, but there was a rub that happened mainly because when people intersect what I do for a living and my personal, so I can ask you a question, and if it's coming from me, oh, now I'm couching you, or I'm treating you lying, or that type of thing. And to work through that, oh my goodness, it feels so good. I almost could be addicted to it because I'm just now getting to the place where I'm using my voice or asking you to use your voice. And so that work through. So I absolutely can agree with you in saying that there isn't enough of it done, but also to see the beauty in it, I think would absolutely increase it being done. Because it was almost sexy to me. Like, oh, look at that. Because it lets you know that if you communicate and understand it doesn't have to equal accept or any of those things, you can absolutely grow to the other side of that versus holding on to something and carrying more weight. And I tell people, I'm almost 200 pounds. I refuse to carry an extra piece of weight because just don't communicate about it. No, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Today, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about loneliness. I think that it's a common misconception that people who are constantly surrounded by others, particularly those who might even be incredibly social and outgoing, can't be lonely. What are your thoughts on this phenomenon?
Oh, it's a lie, people. Right. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. There's a poem in my book where I can remember the day that I was officially introduced to lonely. And I would have never thought in a million years that I could even experience such a thing, because just being alone wasn't lonely to me, but literally the disconnects where you feel like you're not connected to anybody. And then I learned that my response to loneliness was isolation. My car doesn't move. I'm not going anyplace. The only person that sees me is the person at the gas station and the person at the grocery store, because I was just thrown, because I know thousands of people. And so for me to be in a space where my phone didn't ring, I didn't feel connected enough to anybody. And it was just after the passing of all of these losses, actively grieving people that are still living. It was absolutely one of the most painful things I think I've ever experienced, was to know that I live in this world. And at one point I didn't even have an emergency contact. And so loneliness in my mind didn't just come from being alone. It was a disconnect, knowing that there wasn't somebody on the other end of the phone. Who holds a phone with nobody on the other end? It was like I was holding this phone and nobody was on the other end. I just kept going, hello, waiting for somebody to pick up the phone. So I would absolutely say that loneliness can come in different flavors for different people. People can tell you that they could be with somebody and still be lonely. I think when you feel isolated and without support, companionship, activities partner, any of those things, that's when loneliness can kick in. So there's plenty of people that have people around, but you're not doing anything with them. There's people that I know that live around here, but I don't get invited places. I know now I don't get invited places because nobody wants to kick it with a mouth and a mirror. Like, who wants to do that? You can invite you to my birthday party so you can start a workshop yeah. But I understand that now, where before it made me feel like I was unworthy. I'm very clear about that now. No, loneliness. I did most of what I've done in these last 3 or 4 years, very creative, very groundbreaking things I didn't know that I could do. And I did almost all of those things alone, depressed, and suicidal. So know that both can exist.
Yeah.
I can go to a party and have companionship and still be lonely.
Yeah. But also on the other side of that, I think there's some beauty in appreciating time to yourself and appreciating the solitude and all of that. I think it's almost, I would say that, because that's where I'm at in my life now. Like, I feel like I have a lot of love around me. I have beautiful friendships. But I really love being alone. Like, I love my alone time. And I sometimes reflect on, like, why is that? Because I didn't used to be that way. But I do think it's when you've been so lonely and you've hit that rock bottom, you cultivate something inside you that's, okay, this is it. I'm all I've got. Like your point about what you were saying before. And so now when you can still cultivate relationships, but also live in that space of being okay by yourself.
The quiet,
it's a beautiful thing.
Isn't deafening.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's a beautiful way.
The calm brings you peace. Sometimes I can just chuckle to myself in that right now I don't have anybody to worry about except my little fur baby. I don't have to worry about who's going to eat, who's going to sleep, where we're going to go. And I think to myself, my goodness, that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing. So I absolutely do not take it for granted, and I treasure it.
Yeah.
I get to dictate when I go into drama and trauma and all of those types of things, but it's not in this space.
Yeah. Or when you don't, right? I think that's just as powerful. I get to dictate when I don't go into that mode too.
Sure.
I just feel as a society, we are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. I think particularly in the age of social media, where everybody's just staring into a screen all day. And I think that's something that, like, when I do worry, that's something that I worry a lot about because I don't see a solution for it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, what's happening with this social media, and I'm blown away. I'm literally experiencing difficulties in posting and promoting and things of that nature of my brand and business and whatever, because I don't spend time watching other people's lives on social media, YouTube. That's not, I don't even have a TV. I haven't had a TV since 2016. Like, I get holding that way. And for that reason, it's like, okay, Angie, put this out for what? And the little things that I do know about what's happening in this world now, I'm thinking to myself, don't people have other things to do? But in my head, I promise you, I feel like it was a created distraction so that people could be isolated, so that people could be alone, so that you could be as vulnerable as you could be. So when this thing happens, and I don't know what the thing is going to be, in my head, I used to say, but now I think I believe it. At some point, something's going to go. And everybody is looking at a screen, a TV, a phone, a smartwatch, any of those things, we're all going to be in a trance. And I always say to myself, Angie, that won't be you, because I don't hold my phone. Literally, I'm going out of my way not to do those things. But I think it is an epidemic that most people can ask for help anyway. Most people weren't going to go to therapy anyway. And now they're really not going to go because now they're busy and distracted, depressed. They're busy and distracted, alone. And they think, oh, wait a minute, ChatGPT will even respond to you when you don't even, ChatGPT will communicate with you even if you don't. If I just ask a question, it'll say, and you're an amazing person, Angela. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness. Now that, like, what is happening? That's all I can say. It's happening. And now I have it here on tape. What is happening? Yeah. It's gonna be, it is something already.
It is. And I think too, it's all those things you listed, but it's also like a disassociation in addition to all of that. And like lately, I don't know if it's just my algorithm. I hope other people see this too. But I'm seeing a lot of people like joking, but not really joking about how they don't even feel motivated to leave their house anymore
Yeah.
because it's like the world out there is just too much. And it's weird. Like, I don't want to like dive into like the conspiracy theory aspect of things, but it does feel like something bigger is happening.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know. What it is.
I could absolutely be one of those people, but I'm the person that's standing. So I've learned how to do chunky blankets. I'm making my own earrings. I'm working on my second movie, all of these things. And I will
Yeah.
do all of it to keep from getting in the car to go any place, or I'll do it all in one time. And all of us have a variety of different reasons why we fall into that space. But if I could say something to somebody that, yeah, it's wild. I don't even have what to do in that situation because there's too many other distractions for people to be distracted by it's bad.
A lot of walks, I think, has been my solution. I used to be someone that drove everywhere, and now I just go on a lot of walks. And I thankfully live in a very walkable city where that's possible. But I think that the movement, the sunshine, all those things help with that. I think for a lot of folks, life just feels really overwhelming right now, right? Whether it's just the mundane of the day to day, the political landscape. I know a lot of people struggling to find a partner. Some have just given up completely. And so I come back to this lack of attention span that so many people have, which I think leads to this apathy, not to mention silos.
Right.
And I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'm curious as someone who has been in the weeds on some of this. How do you think about it? How do we talk about it? How do we essentially begin to solve a problem that feels too big to even label?
Oh, here's something I've been thinking about. One of my thoughts is shared stories save souls. And so for that very reason, I will talk about I mentioned out loud my codependency, me being lonely, me being depressed. And literally I could start a conversation in a grocery store. I believe that the me too in a different way, but me too. I also believe that it's going to take us healing in public and healing on purpose. I call it hip hop. Healing in public and healing on purpose to have it happen, because only the people that you see and encounter will you see and encounter. So because people aren't reaching out, but it's going to take, and you're the first person I'm hearing say these things out loud to me. So literally as you spoke that, I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about that piece of it, which is the reason I don't have a TV, because it seems so heavy and not being able to carry it. But it's going to have to be that those of us that are growing, people like you that are doing some of the work when it talks about being your brothers and sisters keeper, I literally see us having to go get people and literally have call banks to be able to call people, to say, like, being able to put things in place where we all get together and gather, and learning how to not carry the shame of being any of those things. Because when you lack transparency about what you're thinking, feeling, and believe, you can be crushed and crumbled in that space. And so I live out loud on purpose. And the other piece is to model what it's like to go, I'm depressed, and nobody not pass away. Nobody, literally, I just shed all the shame I need to shed in that moment, because I'm very transparent in that way. And to get people to learn how to do that's one of the things in my movie I suggested, that grow from our stories and then grow and tell your own story. And I meant that with my whole heart, that I want people to be able to, I believe that's one of the reasons that's some of what's wrong with the world. We are not sharing our stories. We're not living out loud. We're many different types of closets. Sexuality isn't the only thing that's in the closet. People's finances are in the closet. People's mental health is in the closet. All types of things are in the closet. And we need to start talking. The only way to get people to talk is to start talking.
Yeah, shared stories save souls. I love the way that you use it. There's a podcast title in there. I'm just saying, You should run with that. I love all of that. I think about that all the time, right? As somebody that, like, what can I do? And it's part of the reason that I'm relaunching this podcast again, is because this is an idea that has never left my soul for more than a decade now. And I'm coming back to it with these sort of very intentional conversations this time, because I'm so aligned with that sentiment that shared stories save souls. Absolutely. And I've always gotten at least a few emails per episode where someone says, thank you for this conversation, helped me with XYZ. And I hate to be that, if I can just help one person today, right? That just, it sounds so cliche or whatever, but that's where I'm at these days. Like, if I can just help one person, have an epiphany.
You absolutely are doing it. You have voices that are being heard, and whether it's 2 people or 200 people that are listening to it, somebody is moved. And when somebody else is moved and activated, guess what? Then they get to go help a person. So you're never just ever helping one person. The other thing I encourage people to do, every adult and adult over 21 that grows from anything, teach a kid. I tell all of my clients, everything I'm teaching you, you go teach your kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, because I don't want them as clients. I would love the money, but I would prefer not to see people than to see people. So every place you grow, you can absolutely, there's not anything that you're being taught that you can't teach kids.
1,000,000%. I would also extend that to, it's not just kids. Oh. It's sometimes like I have someone that helps in the building that I live in, and I have conversations like this with them all the time, and I can see that's turning a wheel, right? So you never know who in your life. And I do believe too, if you're coming from like, I try to approach every conversation I have with like really positive intent. Right. I'm not making assumptions about your life. I'm not trying to instill wisdom that I think that I have that you don't. But if there is something that I can share that might help you, I want to do that. Right. And yeah, I agree with you though. I think sharing that it's not everybody has a podcast, thankfully, but share your wisdom with people, share and ask questions. Sometimes it's just letting someone talk.
Yes. Being curious is so sexy to me. To ask a question. And I'm a questioner. I want to know, do you love your job? How long you been doing this? Those types of things. And people love to talk about themselves and not very love to ask those types of questions. But I think that sharing of stories, and it's also a way of my granddaughter is on a spiritual trek. And so I'm talking to her about discipleship. And I said, that doesn't have to be preaching anymore. I don't have to knock on a door. I can sit someplace with a group of strangers and share a story. And all of a sudden, things can happen from that. I don't have to preach to anybody. I don't have to say, you should, or this could. I can just tell my story. If I can tell you how many people that have been activated to grow just from hearing of my growth, my story, it's probably as many people as I've actually been paid to come help just by sharing my story.
I love it. Keep sharing it. Yep. You have described believing you had to essentially become a people pleaser just to belong. Let's talk a bit about people pleasing. How do you define it beyond the surface, right? Because I think to someone listening, I know what a people pleaser is. What is your definition of a people pleaser?
If you heard me correctly, I said extreme people pleaser because that codependent, and the reason I explain it that way, because people believe they know what codependency is. I can tell you that codependency is as strong and debilitating as any other addiction that I know of. And I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, so I know about crack addiction. I know about heroin. I worked at a methadone maintenance place. This codependency, I got to check every day, all day. It's not like it's a water in here and I'm going, oh, okay, I know I can't have that. It's like a conversation I'm having with somebody I love, and they ask for something, and before I know it, I'm going, oh, I'll do that. And then I go, wait a minute, I got 16 other things to do. And then and then they look at you funny because now, and I taught people how to treat me, and I did a horrible job, and having to undo that job takes a whole lot of work. I think what is so very important to know about people pleasing, for me, it is when you give of yourself, two things. Most people pleasers are addicted to the pleasing of other people to get the response from them that they believe and they want and crave and need. So I'm going to tap dance so that you can go, oh, you did great. Or I'm going to tap dance. You can say, thank you, I appreciate it. No one tap dance like you. It's something that you crave, because I do crave that thing. And that people pleasing then keeps you so consumed with the things around you that you don't take care of yourself. So that's the piece. I mean, for me to be literally, imagine me being bones and a skeleton going over resuscitating somebody else. They come back to life and I go back to being dead. People pleasing, and most of us think this is what's going to help everybody. If you're one of those people that say, making other people happy is what makes me happy, that is absolutely the road to a codependent everything, and it is debilitating. I was in a pageant, and my platform was codependency. And one of the things I said in my speech was, codependency kills more spirits and relationships than guns kill people. And that's real talk. So I see it everywhere where people will fight me and go, I just enjoy da-da. And I bet you if I ask any of those people, who shows up for you? But what we get is the love, even if you do nothing but let us do for you. Because I remember for Christmas, I was going, why am I feeling the way I was feeling the way that I was feeling? Because I didn't have anybody to do anything for. Because I wasn't enough to do anything for. It's these other people that were going to tell 17 other people what I did for them. And that's where I got love. I'm just now defining love in a different way. And yeah, it's an addiction.
Yeah. I guess another way to say that is something that you had alluded to that kind of stuck with me. You said loving others felt like being loved.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible that, because I'm hearing everything you're saying and I'm hearing about like how that leads to codependency. I guess my question there though is it possible that some people actually get gratification from loving others completely unconditionally?
Absolutely. And the only caveat would be as long as you are healing, growing, and transforming and able to take other people with you, ride the train. I'm talking about those people who are literally looking for their growth and their healing in other people. So they tap dance, believing that's going to be transformational and love. Those are the people that we get run over. You know, and almost all of us are going to get tied to the people that are needy. They're going to be narcissistic, and they're going to be baffling. And guess what? Rejection makes us try harder. So we stay on that wheel. We stay on that wheel. And that's what we want. In many cases, I didn't want love from new people. I wanted the people that I'd already loved to love me the same way. So I kept going on that wheel. I didn't, unlike a sock, let me go get a new pair of socks. No, I wanted this sock to work. I would stay on the sock. So I'm going to say that the difference is, yes, there's people that can absolutely do it and do it well. I believe I'm growing to that place where I can do it and do it well, but I'm doing me first. I'm doing me first, unapologetically, without an apology and without shame. Because a lot of us feel shameful that we put ourselves first. Oh, that's selfish.
Yeah.
And people love it when you say, oh, she would give you the coat off her back. Now that sounds ridiculous. Or they call you selfless. You think about that. Selfless means without self. That is not a compliment. That is not a compliment to be selfless.
Yeah. It's such a fascinating, like almost paradox, right? Because I think for me, I feel like unconditional love it's a journey, and it's an everyday you wake up and make new choices about how you're going to approach it. Because I do want to believe in such a thing, right? And I want to believe that I have that for the people in my life, everybody's challenging to each other at some point. But I also feel like I've been on this planet for a while. And so when I look around, I just don't know.
Yeah. And you use one of these words that I get into trouble with a lot. And I tell people, I don't do anything unconditionally because I at least want a thank you. If something exchanged, I want to thank you. And I think that because I've been with people, many people that will go without saying please, thank you, or apologizing and taking responsibility, I am not doing anything. Now, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do anything, but I won't do it again if, in fact, there can't be some acknowledgement. And that is an expectation. I don't have a problem. That's a condition. Yeah, anything I do without condition is called volunteering. And I do volunteer. I volunteer many places. And those people don't ever have to say thank you or any of those things. But when I am doing something with intention that's showing up for somebody else, I do have a condition. And I'm unapologetic about that.
It's so funny because the best metaphor I have for this in my own life is I feel like I was raised well and I will hold the door for you. That is like something that like I will absolutely run to get the door to make sure that it's open for you. Man, woman, child, dog, whatever it is. And I feel like I'm doing that out of the goodness of my heart. Again, that's how I was raised. It feels like the right thing to do. But if you do not say thank you to me when I do that, there will be hell to pay. And I will call you out for that. But then I'm like, but right? And that's, I feel like what you're saying. It's like it's unconditional until it isn't, or until it's, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Like I think I struggle with whether or not that's the good response to that, because if it's unconditional, it should just be like, I'm holding the door and closing my eyes and whatever comes.
Right.
But that's just not reality. I don't know.
And I can do some of that. What I usually do is sarcastically say out loud to myself, thank you, Angie.
Oh, no, I'll say thank you. I'll just say you're welcome.
I lift somebody in front of me and they don't put their hand up. Hey, thank you. I put my hand up. So it's my way of being able to calm myself from that. But I don't want to give If that's the last thing that I have, I don't want to give that last thing. So I don't use the word. The only person I show unconditional love to is me. And
Yeah.
me being able, and I even will respect myself to say, Angie, thank you. I just went grocery shopping. I got all these fruits and vegetables. That's self-care. I didn't get a bunch of meat and grease and potato chips and carbs and stuff. I got grapes and strawberries. Angie, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking care of this body so you can still walk up these stairs because you live on the second floor.
And I think too, that's a really good lesson. Like, I think next time I'm in that situation myself, I'm going to, instead of projecting some sort of passive aggressiveness toward the person, I might just say, thank you, Sean, for being this person that
Exactly.
is able to do that. I love so many.
Oh, that's the other thing is I give benign interpretation to people now, especially now because the world is, I have to believe that everybody is going through and growing through something. And so, Angie, show them grace.
Yeah.
You know all too well what it's like to be in that space. Show them grace. So that gives me the opportunity to stretch, because it is a stretch, but it
is.
opportunity to stretch.
Grace is actually, that's one of my favorite words. And that's a lens through which I try to see things as of late. For someone listening who recognizes a lot of this in themselves, right? Maybe it's the helper who can't be helped, the person who's surrounded by people and so lonely. What do you want them to hear?
I want them to hear that, one, if misery loves company, you're in great company. Well, club. But I want this to be a club where we know. People say that when you know better, you do better. Not everybody can do that. Knowledge is power, but knowledge is also a responsibility. And if you have knowledge, you can't have knowledge and just have knowledge and be able to change. Knowledge is like paint. And if you don't apply the knowledge, the color of your world never changes. So if you've read the self-help book, you've listened to this podcast, walk away with one thing that you can do differently, one thing you can enhance, one thing you can change, one thing you can switch. Become aware. If you listen to this podcast and you're aware of something that you weren't aware of 56 minutes ago, then yay, congratulate and celebrate yourself, because self-awareness is where all growth starts. You cannot change anything you can't identify. And yeah, you cannot make things different. I would want everybody to walk away with the fact that if you were able to pick up on something, your self-awareness is intact, and when you're able to use it, and you can grow, do whatever it is that you want to do. But that's going to be contingent on you being responsible for you. And that's the other thing, is that I had to be responsible for my own healing and growth. Nobody was coming for me. In many cases, people didn't even believe me when I said I needed help. And when you have to be in front of something or somebody, literally having to take yourself to that place and be in that space to have it happen. And
Amen.
it's real, right? That's real.
Amen.
That's real.
Something that is fascinating to me, and you just reminded me of this, that I used to believe that phrase, when you know better, you do better. I used to believe that was applicable to everyone. I've now learned to understand that it really only applies to me. It only needs to apply to me. So yeah, that's a really good lesson.
Let me say this about we were never taught to apply the pain. We were never taught to to extract the lesson and then find ways to be able to grow from that. And so here we are at any age and still not knowing how to read a book and apply what you've learned.
What has you hopeful?
You give me hope. The people listening to this podcast give me hope. At some point, it was only because I knew that I dispensed medicine from my mouth, knowing that my assignment, I don't know who is assigned to me. And for that very reason, I'm still here, because I know that if I'm here, my assignment is still ongoing, and I want to be able to reach everybody that I'm supposed to reach. That gives me hope, because I know I will continue to live for that. In times that I did not want to live, that was the thing I would say. I don't want anybody, because people that are assigned to me can't go to you to get it. They can only get it from me. I believe that. Yeah. And for that reason, I didn't want anybody to be without, because I didn't want to grow enough to grow past some things. That it gives me hope that I'm still here, that I'm going to be able to reach those people. I am very happy and hopeful about those things.
Angela, what a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for this today.
Thank you.
I feel uplifted. I feel, I'm really grateful for this time. It's funny because I always have this list of questions because I want to be prepared, but my favorite conversations are when it goes off script a bit and you just get to have a chat with somebody. And it felt like that's what this was today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you much. I appreciate the opportunity to process, because that's what it is no matter what.
Right? Yeah, totally. Agreed. Please let folks listening now know how they can connect with you and learn more about your work.
Okay. My granddaughter would tell you that I'm Googleable. I love when she's like, Chicky, you're an influencer. And I was like, what's an influencer? But you can reach me on all the social media platforms and on Google under Angie Harvey Speaks. I'm very happy to say that I have a brand that is pretty much intact in everything that you would need to know about me and about what I do and how I flow. I say when Angie Harvey speaks, shift happens, and that's very true. And I love helping grown folks grow up.
Thanks for spending some time with me today. Choosing to step off autopilot and think differently about your life takes work, and I don't take it lightly that you're here. If today's episode resonated, the best way to support the show is to share it with someone who might need to hear it. And whenever you're ready to go deeper, whether through free worksheets, guided audio reflections, or one-on-one coaching, you can find everything over at thinkoutsideTheLines.com. Be well, and I'll catch you next time.